All right, so we got a battle for you guys today, and it's between Law and Shanks. Trafalgar D. Water Law versus Garland Shanks, right? The thing about this fight is that Law, I think most people would agree that Law's better than Kid, right? And in this fight, he approaches the situation differently. And I think they agree with me on that too. He's not jumping right in to fight Shanks and his allies. He's making observations. He's saying, okay, I would guess that these are his allies, right? I don't want to fight these guys. If they attack us, though, we will fight them. That kind of thing. He's not just going in guns a-blazing like Kid, announcing himself like, oh, no, 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 He's not doing shit like that. He's taking a more, serious, more calculated approach. But even if he tries to be a little more calculated, more intelligent about going about this, right? The result's still the same. But I'm gonna I'll run it down for you. Because I know people like Law, and Law is a cool character. He is, but Shanks is still Shanks, and Shanks is probably still defeating Law like he did to Kid. You know, because Law and Kid are like that's still a close fight between them, right? And you've seen what happened to Kid, right? But I'm telling you, Law's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge for Shanks. Not more of a challenge, but he's gonna, you know, put up more of a fight. So strength that goes to Shanks, right? Shanks has physical strength. Even with one arm, this man's strong, right? He's clashing with Whitebeard. I don't think Law's clashing with Old Man Whitebeard, right? Speed goes to Shanks. I know this is not a canonized, feat, but it's still a feat nonetheless. He was able to meet Kizaru, hit him with a little bit of hockey and like meet him right there, boom, where Kizaru is. Kizaru is made of light. He moves fast. Law's not doing shit like that. Durability, that shit goes to Shanks. We haven't seen Shanks like get hit by shit and then just stand up, but we know that he's more durable than Law. We know that as people who watch the show. Endurance goes to Shanks. Clashing with powerful characters like Kaido, Whitebeard. He's fought with like all kind of people. He fought with Blackbeard. He fought with some other people too. Law, his longest fight was probably against Big Mom, but he had support. Intelligence, I do think Law is smart. And I don't think Shanks is dumb, y'all, but I think that Law is more, of a guy who can think on the fly about his opponent and other things. He's in this situation though, he's like, anything I come up with is like, I'm only gonna keep my crew. Like he's probably gonna because he's a cool guy, right? He's gonna prioritize getting his crew to safety, and then he's gonna be the one fighting Shanks. That's the only thing he can do. And then he might be like, I have to try to stay the fuck away from the water. If I can, get close enough to the shore, then I can, prevent myself from falling in the water, and then I can fight him on land, that kind of thing. Because if he, but that's basically what's gonna happen. It's a shitty situation for him too if he had to ever fight against Shanks. Experience goes to Shanks because he's been on the seas for a lot longer. Close skills go to Shanks. Range skills go to Shanks. That move will be popping up. We know Divine Departure. recoup. Because like this is the thing, Law might be able to dodge it. He could shambles himself somewhere else, but does he want to do that? With his crew being there, I don't know. He could though. He could dodge that, but then he could have another one. And in that move, it ain't a weak move, but he could summon another divine departure if he need be. Um, Hacks, and that's why Hacks go to Shanks. Recoup goes to Shanks as well. Um, Environment goes to Shanks because he's a non-devil fruit user. Law is a devil fruit user. You understand what that means? Once Law hits the water, he's sunk. You know, he's drowning. So that being said, Shanks wins low difficulty. Right, very low difficulty. Be cool, call in the corner, and let me know what you think about Law versus Shanks. And if Law is he ain't, it's very low difficulty. But be cool, call in the corner. Let me know what you think. If you do, tell me why in the comments.